On July 13th, 2020, a brand new racing series was announced called the Superstar Racing Experience, or SRX for short. At a glance, it may seem like your average stock car or late model racing series, nondescript looking stock car type deal with a big V8 that races on short tracks and dirt ovals, nothing that we haven't seen a million times already out of the United States. Before I start today, I know there are some varying opinions on NASCAR and oval racing. Some love it, some think it's diabolically boring. Certainly with a series such as this, there was bound to be some comparisons to NASCAR. Well, after having watched some SRX racing, I can tell you that, yeah, it's not boring. It's not boring actually, it's fantastic. In this video, I'm going to tell you all about one of America's latest and greatest racing series, as telling the YouTube motorsport audience about a category of racing that they don't know anything about has actually turned out to be something that works quite well for me. So, the series was created by some men named Ray Evernham, Sandy Montag, and George Pine, as well as three-time NASCAR Cup Series champion Tony Stewart. As I said, the series was announced on July 13th, 2020, and was scheduled to commence the following year. The series races on a combination of short tracks and dirt ovals such as Stafford Motor Speedway, Eldora Speedway, and Nashville Fairground Speedway, just to name a few. However, this isn't just your average small Saturday night racing series. The premise is this: a combination of young drivers such as Ernie Francis Jr. and Hailie Deegan go up against older veteran drivers. And when I say veteran drivers, what I actually mean is motorsport royalty. Some of the big names competing in this series include Marco Andretti, Willie T. Ribbs, Tony Stewart himself, Tony Kanaan, Elio Castroneves, Paul Tracy, and Bill Elliott, just to name a few. These drivers are also joined by an entry at each round of the championship called the Rocky Balboa car, for local racing champions looking to make a name for themselves on the big stage, as well as a ringer car for cameo appearances from drivers such as Chase Elliott and Scott Speed. Unfortunately, COVID-19 prevented drivers such as Mark Webber from competing in the series, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they won't be able to compete when the situation eventually clears up again in the future. The cars themselves are all exactly the same. There are no teams, so no one should be getting any sort of advantage. They all use a chassis made by Fury race cars with an Ilmor 396 V8, which is actually the same engine that's used in the Arca Menard series and the Camping World Truck series, and the race car was designed by Ray Evernham. Now, the format. Two 15-minute heat races and a 100-lap feature race, or 150 laps at Slinger Speedway, make up the Saturday night race weekend. The grid for the first race is decided by a random draw, while the grid for Heat 2 is the inverted finishing order from the first heat. Once the 15 minutes are out, the white flag comes out and the drivers have one lap left, similar to the 45 minutes plus a lap used in the Formula E Championship. Championship points are awarded for both heats, with first place scoring 12 points and every driver downwards scoring one fewer point, with 12th place scoring a single point. The starting grid for the feature race is based on the finishing results from Heat 2 and is the longest race of the night. 25 points are awarded to the winner, 22 for the second, and 2 points less for every position down to 12th, who scores just 2 points. Both the heat races and the feature races are split up by the cautions flown at the maximum green flag lap limit. I think that just about covers everything. Now, here's why you should watch it. The racing is superb. From the races I've seen so far, I have never been bored under green flag racing conditions. These guys race side by side, wheel to wheel for the entire race distance and are constantly on each other's cases. Such is the beauty of short track racing. There's no conservative driving here, that's for sure. Honestly, I reckon you get more action in 3 laps in an SRX race than you get in the highlight reels for other racing series. Another thing that's great about this series is that the races are short and to the point. If we want to compare this to NASCAR, which I know NASCAR fans probably don't want me to, but I will do anyway. I know a major complaint that a lot of people have about watching motorsport is how time consuming it is. Actually, especially for me this year, because I'm in year 12, I have virtually no time to watch any other series other than Formula 1 this year. If you're a motorsport fan who is strapped for time, this is the series for you. The entire SRX race weekend is done and dusted, usually in 2 hours or less. Don't worry if you don't catch the race live either. So far, the SRX YouTube channel has uploaded every single race of the season within a couple of days of the checkered flag being flown. The link to that channel is in the description below. SRX have also played a very smart card by getting their foot through the video game door straight off the bat. This is a good move, as the F1 games by Codemasters, for example, are a case study in how racing game adaptations can bring new fans to the series. Case in point, me. SRX actually have their own game, and while I haven't played it yet, from what I can tell, people really seem to like it. As a series, there's only one thing I don't really like about it, and that is the competition cautions. As far as I can work out, I don't really think they're needed, to be honest. The racing product is good enough that it doesn't really spice up the races in any conceivable way. If anything, they just interrupt ongoing battles that are beginning to really heat up. Do they give a break to the drivers? If so, why? Most of these guys are ex or current NASCAR drivers, and some of them have sports car racing experience. These guys are no strangers to racing for extended periods of time on a physically demanding track. Although I must admit, that probably seems really rich coming from someone who, when getting back into sim racing on my Logitech G920 after a few months, actually complained about his arms being tired. In short, I think this series is great. SRX knew what it wanted to be and absolutely nailed it on the head. As a racing product, I can't really fault this series. Don't ever expect a problem with SRX episode, because unless they make some kind of substantial change that absolutely ruins it, there is unlikely to ever be one. I intend to watch a lot more of this series next year. Consider me hooked, and I recommend it to basically anyone who doesn't have some weird road course superiority complex. So that basically rules out like 90% of the Formula 1 community. Actually, on the subject of that, there is the possibility that SRX could see some action on road courses, as the SRX car was actually designed as a road racer. Regardless, the future seems very bright for this exciting new series. A second season is scheduled, and suffice to say, I will be most likely watching plenty of these races next year. Anyway, that's going to do it from me today. What do you think of SRX? Do you think that you'll be watching it next year? Comment below. I do actually read them all and will most likely respond to you. Before I duck out today, just wanted to let everyone know that TCR now has a Facebook group and we need some new conversation starters, so come and join us. Link in the description below with all the usual jazz. Anyway, like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.